So everything is going to be revolving around a lot of data that we collect today, which will, in fact, in turn benefit the retailer, consumer, and start with the manufacturer.
Thanks, Karan. So as you mentioned, you work and you connect with your customer base who are retailers. 100, 200 आप उनसे समझते हो, they give you information, analyze, you use that, so you can adapt and then present whatever else your product in the selection that you make, design and all of those things. In retail environment, the most important thing and the person who matters the most, not the product, not just the visual merchandising, but it's that salesperson who is actually going to be or who connects with the consumers and who presents product. Because whatever one may do, आप social media kitna bhi kar lo, brand building kar lo, you may do everything. It's at the end of the day, you have actually handed over that power to that salesperson and how he or she is presenting to. So question for you, Prasad, you have been working with the retailers, you have experience of almost more than 30 years now. How do you really empower your sales team? Because you want to retain experienced staff. They have dealt with the grandfather, grandmother or the parents. अभी उनका बच्चा आ रहा है इधर, शादी हो रही है. And how do they connect? So how do you really empower and help the sales team to be able to connect with the consumers? Is training important or how does it work? This is where science, I mean art comes in. अब तक हम science की बात कर रहे थे, ये art है शायद. ऐसा मैं मानती हूँ, आप बताइए.
It's a very interesting question because sales training सब करते हैं, right? So if I tell you कि you have to give them the sales training, blah blah blah, that's been done to death, I would say. And in any case, it has to be continued. So it's not something, so sales training is something which is critical. But I think the only way to empower your sales staff is to actually make them understand how to read a consumer's mind. And I think that's critical element. And when I say that's critical, is also from the perspective that one needs to understand what is the motivation for that customer who has walked into your store, to understand her motivation to buy. And again, the big difference between a motivation and justification. The justification is always that she's investing in jewelry. But remember, that's just a justification. That's not the motivation. And why I say that is investment is more from the perspective that she needs to justify at home, because if she's not economically independent, she's obviously, using her husband's money or parents or boyfriend or whosoever. So she just needs to, sort of go and tell back and say that today I invested 1 lakh rupees in gold jewelry or diamond jewelry. Right? In fact, more so in gold jewelry, because the justification in gold jewelry is much easier when you talk about an investment angle. Right? So that's the justification. But the motivation is completely different. And the motivation is, there are 6 different motivations for which a woman buys, especially in the Indian markets, and it's based on a whole lot of research that has been done. And so one needs to identify that what's going on here in her mind. And once you can actually pinpoint that, so that makes a difference. The 6th motivation, I'll quickly just tell you. One, the first and the foremost, which is all about, looking beautiful, right? That's the way they are going to project it. It may be actually to project her status. In a research, nobody is going to say कि हाँ मेरे को अपना status दिखाना है इसलिए मैं 2 carat का diamond jewelry लेना चाहती हूँ. Nothing of that sort. But it's just that she wants to look beautiful. So that's the motivation number 1. Motivation number 2 is also it has to be a gift of love. She needs to tell the world that my husband has gifted this to me, or my parents have gifted this to me, or my boyfriend has gifted this to me. So it's a gift of love. Now, unfortunately, of course, in India, we men are not that articulate or shy away from saying I love you, though, of course, again, it's changing. And, a whole lot of shift is already happening there. So gift of love is going to be the next big motivation, which is likely to happen. Number 3 is all about, women wearing the jewelry at office. Because, economically they're getting more and more independent. And that's where, women would prefer, different kind of jewelry at the workplace. So which they call it as self-reward. So I deserve something in life because I have achieved something in life, right? And whatever may be the reason, but she thinks she, actually wants to self-reward herself. So I deserve a piece of jewelry, whether it's gold or diamond. Number 4 is all about just having at least one piece in her wardrobe, which is called the social desirability. Because if she doesn't have any piece of jewelry, which of course in India rarely happens, but the fact is if she doesn't have one, she definitely wants at least one piece or one set of jewelry. That's called social desirability because to show it in the society that she has one. Then there is another one, which is all about one-upmanship, where one really needs to show, अगर आपको अपना कोई पुरानी ad सर्फ की मुझे हमेशा याद आती है कि भला उसकी कमीज़ मेरी कमीज़ से सफ़ेद कैसे, which is a sort of a one-upmanship, right? Which is what actually happens in jewelry also. Again, nobody's going to say it in so many words. But the fact is that if somebody is wearing half a carat diamond, then I want to wear 1 carat. And if somebody else is wearing 1 carat, I want to wear a 2 carat diamond. So, so that's called one-upmanship. And the last one, which is the 6th one, is all about, expressing it to the world that, I am here and I have arrived in life. So there, again, is something which is, you have to shout out loud that this is what my jewelry is all about. So from there, she's indirectly saying that I've arrived in life. So, I mean, these are the basic 6 motivations for which she's going to buy. So I know it's a bit very complicated for any sales staff to actually get into that. But if you actually, get them to ask the right questions, then it becomes easier that maybe it is actually for office wear. Whether it's self-reward or anything else doesn't matter. But, what's the ultimate objective or is it for a wedding, So bridal is going to be, again, very different. And bridal, again, gets into more traditional designs versus office wear, which is going to be more modern designs. Again, bridal gets more into the gold side of the jewelry, whereas office wear may be more on platinum side of the jewelry, So all that really matters a lot to understand. And I think that's the key. So one has to get into a consumer mindset to really understand this.
Thank you. I am already motivated to buy one more piece now today, Prasad. You want to ask a question?
It's basically, any woman, see, again, woman plays different roles at different life stages, right? When she's in college, maybe, 18 to, let's say, 25, when she's in college, she usually tends to follow her mother's style. She may not have her own style, right? Then by 25, she gets into the working space. And that's where her style starts differing because then it's all her colleagues who start influencing her. So that 25 to maybe 30 is the age where, it's all about a working woman. Then comes when she gets married, let's say 30 plus, is where then it's all about her social status, where the kind of family that she's got into. So it needs that her jewelry needs to reflect the social status of her family. It's not even so much about her. So, so that's, again, another motivation. And then post maybe 45, I mean, maybe let's say around 35, 40, is when she starts buying more for the children, yeah? And maybe by the time she's 55, she's buying more for the grandchildren, okay? So, and what happens when she's buying for the grandchildren is where she also wants to reflect that she has arrived in life, she has achieved more or less everything in life, and that's where she wants to flash her jewelry, right? And that's where she wants the different, maybe bigger and bolder pieces. It all depends, of course, on different consumers, but the whole idea is her idea of reflecting that she has arrived in life actually has to reflect in the design that she's buying. So that all that one needs to understand as a sales staff, that what is the purpose for which she's actually going to buy. So it's a very intriguing one, but it's very interesting.
Thank you. I am reminded of when we go to some of these to buy the digital things or, like Reliance Digital or Chroma. And when you want to buy something, many of these manufacturers have different counters. And they have their own sales team, 1 or 2 people, who will actually explain to you in detail. So if you want to buy a Samsung phone, in Reliance and Chroma, they have a small display set where there is all Samsung phones are, for example, tablets, PCs are experience zone are kept. And any question you have about Samsung, that salesperson will be able to answer all the questions. He is not from Reliance, he is from Samsung, but he is there in the premises of Reliance to really explain to you what this product is about. And I think you want to say something?
No. It just reminds me of my own personal experience that happened with me, and especially with Samsung. I was at the Hong Kong airport, and my flight got delayed. So मैंने कहा चलो थोड़ा time pass करते हैं जाके duty free में देखते हैं कुछ. So I was just browsing around in these cell phones, and the guy was there. The sales staff was so pushy. That he kept, pushing that Samsung phone to me, and I said, I didn't know how to get out of that situation because initially, of course, I was asking him so many questions to understand the features and all that, but he started convincing me so much. Then I thought, the only way to wriggle out of this situation was I'm a left-hander, right? And so the phone had a stylus, and which was on the right-hand side. Okay, so I said, the day you have a stylus on the left-hand side, I'll be more than happy to buy this. I thought I was smart, but he was much smarter. He says, who says, sir, this is on the right-hand side? He just flipped the phone, and he said, there it is. And I actually ended up buying. Let me admit that. So it was, because I was more impressed with the salesmanship, not about the phone, but that's where it counts. And I think we need those kind of people in our jewelry industry.
You should have imported him along with the phone, yeah.
So this brings us to a very, very important and relevant point. We don't really are able to effectively communicate and have that communication give the sense of purpose to the sales team. Unka purpose kya hai? Why do they exist in our showrooms? And they need to understand all that we are talking about. Are we really investing in them? We say, अच्छा ये इतना शो है, MRP लिखा है, gold कितना लिखा है, आप जाके बेचो. Understanding consumers, they have to really understand. And we are hearing more and more about not just gold weight, diamond weight, etc., but about now ethical sourcing, sustainability. That has become the buzzword these days. So the question is, how do you really help, Ashish, your sales team, to think about all this and communicate, understand, because those who are doing this well, it's a USP for them. It's still kind of coming up. So what are your thoughts on those?
Firstly, I'll add to what question we had asked to Prasad, that many a times, and the key for having a successful, counter sales executive is he should understand the product 100%. That is many a times lacking in many of the showrooms, that he doesn't understand what he has at the counter. जो सामने है वो तो बेच सकेगा शायद, लेकिन in the whole inventory the executive has to have in his mind. मेरे पास 24 इंच का कितना चेन है कभी भी पूछो तो उसको मालूम होना चाहिए. 24 इंच का 10 ग्राम का है क्या, he should be able to know. So his study about the goods that he has in stock is utmost important. Number one. Number two, his understanding of the company that he is working for. The background, the history is important. Then he'll understand whom he is representing. Because what I tell our people is that when you are at the counter, when you are selling, you are the face of WHP. You are not Mr. ABC. You are talking to the retail customer as Vaman Haripete. So that responsibility they have to understand, number two. And as Prasad said, you need to understand the consumer. Many a times there are 5-7 people who come together. So standard retailing में who is the decision maker, वो training में सब आ जाता है. And now since it's more the experience, shopping experience has become more important. So soft skills is getting even more important from the salesperson's point of view as to how he is approaching the customer. क्या question पूछना है वो ठीक है, what is body language or her body language. And soft skills are getting more important because now base training everyone has. What is it that differentiates A jeweler from B jeweler? And for the retail executive, I think storytelling or telling the story about the product is, I think, most critical now to sell the product. And coming back to your second question about ethical sourcing, I think yes, it is the buzzword now that ethical sourcing, product using ethical sourced product is important. And at the retail counter level or in the consumer level, the youngsters or millennials are aware of it, but most of the serious jewelry shoppers are still not aware and asking for it. So the time will come, as I said, the speed has quickened up so much that maybe in a couple of years we'll get to that point that consumers will start asking. Online consumers are now focused on that, but offline or physical store consumers are still not asking about it. But I think what is important, we talk a lot about ethically sourced products and everything, but doing ethical business is often, ignored. I get rightly sourced gold and diamond, but at retail level, when I'm doing business, if I'm not ethical, if I'm not competing in the ethical way, that is also, a problem. So I think that also needs to be focused by the industry captains, getting uniformity in rates, no competitive advertisements, and that is also part of your ethical business practices. They need to be pushed. And one misconception is that getting ethically sourced items or doing business is expensive. That is what people generally feel. But I think doing ethical business in the long term is the cheapest. And doing unethical business in the long term will be most expensive. So that everyone has to understand. Thanks.
Thank you, Ashish. From what you just expressed, I think that's why your business has been in existence and has built a legacy for over 110 years. So compliments to you and
It's all
your
the hard
family.
work of our forefathers.
Absolutely, yes. So we did have some discussion. Before I ask any more questions, audience में से कोई किसी के पास सवाल है? हाँ, please. Can you give him the?
I am in retail jewelry business.
कहाँ पर है आपका ज्वेलरी?
Bhopal Akshay Jewellers.
Okay.
Right. I have like some question. Like, can you throw some light on customer lifetime value and how that can be incorporated in retail business?
Can you customer lifetime value?
Many of the companies like Tesla, what is doing in some America, like it is directly selling the cars to the customer. So they are basically concentrating on customers and on their lifetime value that they have to offer. Like this is very relevant in our business. So how it can be incorporated?
Prasad, you want to take that question?
Very, very interesting question. And yes, it is true that, customer lifetime value is actually changing for sure. And especially as Ashish Bhai also mentioned, that post the 90s when there were, so much of media exposure, that consumers are now no more coming to the family jewelers. They're willing to go anywhere else. So that means that the lifetime value of the customer for you as a retailer obviously goes down dramatically. So that is always going to be a challenge. Having said that, the first and the foremost is it's about like today's average. For a diamond jewelry, you'll be surprised. If I may ask, when do you think the customer comes back again for diamond jewelry, not for gold jewelry? In a year, right? So just about 10 years ago, it was in 18 months. It's already happened in 12 months, right? When it comes to gold, they perhaps comes every 6 months, right? So that's where is the step one. Step two is also to understand that the customer is changing towards more minimalistic, right, jewelry. And when they go more minimalistic, then obviously their frequency of coming in is likely to be more, right? And that's where the challenge as a retailer is how to retain him. So that I mean, it's almost like talking about subscription models. You know, why do we all get subscribed to something? Because then we get hooked on to a subscription that, okay, if I'm going to Netflix, my more chances are I'll keep going to Netflix and not maybe to Amazon Prime or whatever else. You know, so that's where the subscription becomes useful. And that's where those are the kind of customer retention values or promotions or marketing one needs to think through. And that will only ensure that the customer keeps coming back to you and not to your neighbor. So, you know, so that's what you'll have to be innovative in your marketing ideas. This is all about purely retaining your customer. The customer lifetime value is purely retaining your customer. So for that, you need to be very, very effective. I can, you know, give you more offline if I understand, you know, what exactly the problem that you may be facing at this point in time. Because once I understand the kind of customers that are coming there, we can always, you know, re-innovate and sort of do a better marketing to sustain and then keep coming them, getting them back to your store. And maybe Ashish Bhai can actually add.
One key point that the market has changed is, as we were discussing on the group also, the loyalty has to one jeweler has gone down substantially in last 20 years. Earlier, we used to have loyal customers who would blindly come in and Ashish bhai, आपने जो बोला ना मैंने ले लिया. That was the case, but now the loyalty has gone down, which means it's getting tougher for all of us to build that value. So as my friend Shivranji always tells you, it's much cheaper to retain a customer than getting a new one, and the retailers generally end up spending more in getting new customers. So the spend ratio also has to move more to retaining the customer than getting fresh customers. That will build probably the value. And since the rates have gone up, the incidence or the frequency has sometimes reduced, Prasad. The gold rates have also gone up. So that needs to be kept in mind.
We have a question there and then you, Pundit. Yes, please.
Hi, good morning. This question is for Nirupa ji. You touched on a point on purpose. You mentioned the employee in the counter should know the purpose. Why is he there in the counter in the retail? So my point is, you know, we are talking about future of retail. How do we connect purpose of retail with future of retail? I'll give an example. Today we see a lot of D2C companies coming. CaratLane came, you know, in recent time, and within few years or less than, let's say, about a decade, you know, scaled to such height. So these are tech companies, tech D2C startups. The difference from traditional retail and this D2C retail is they're solving, not selling. So for example, Melora also came in, they're saying jewelry from wardrobe to your drawer, locker to your drawer. So they're saying why should a jewelry set in the locker? So they're trying to solve a problem. So in retail also, do you think when we ask the employee a question, should we also ask, going back to the owner of the jeweler, a question, what is the purpose? Why are you selling jewelry in the first place?
I agree with you completely, and I'm reminded of when Chroma was launched many years ago, I think 15 years ago or so, and first summer, and they were you know, summer normally these retailers advertise and sell more of refrigerators and air conditioners. So उनकी air conditioner की जो ad आती थी उसमें वो लिखते थे, we will help you to buy. We are not selling. So I went to the Chroma store and I was wondering, what does it mean we will help you to buy? तो उसने मुझे फर्स्ट सवाल पूछा, आपका घर कहाँ पर है, कौन से फ्लोर पर है, ईस्ट से सन आता है या वेस्ट से आता है, आपका बेडरूम अंदर की साइड में है बाहर है. He asked all those questions and then he said, मुझे लगता है आपको इतने टन का लेना चाहिए. All these questions that he asked, I don't think they were really very, very important for him to be able to sell in that sense. But it engaged me. It gave me the you know, in my mind that he cares for me. When I, as a consumer, I walked into a jewelry store, most sales team or sales associates that I have, अच्छा आपका बजट क्या है, कितने में लेना है, 10 ग्राम का चेन चाहिए, 5 ग्राम का चेन चाहिए या क्या चाहिए. I haven't come across sales associates in jewelry who will ask, अच्छा आप क्या करती है, आप ये whatever you are wearing, ये casual wear है आपका, you working somewhere, can I help you to buy some jewelry for you? I may be working as a sales associate, I may be working as a receptionist, I may be working as a operator or in a IT field. My needs will be different. And I think as Prasad just explained, at what stage in my life is. And I think this is what the retailers also, I remember talking to some of the exhibitors here, and when they were some of the retailers, they say, मेरे पास ऐसे customers है, वो जब भी आते हैं, I know what they want. And I tell them, आपको यही लेना है, और वो लेके चले जाते हैं. And I'm thinking to myself, who the hell are you, sorry to use that word, to tell me what I should be buying? Give me the options. Tell me कि आपके लिए मेरे हिसाब से आप जो बोल रही है वो सोच के मुझे लगता है कि आपके लिए ये 4 ऑप्शंस ठीक है. Our purpose is to help the consumer, customer who is walking in to feel great about herself. If we are able to do it, your jewelry is sold. As he said.
In fact, that's where I just wanted to add that it's all about personalization. You know, even the example of Chroma that she gave, he was doing nothing but he was trying to make it more special for her by actually saying that this is what you really, I'm sure he had already made up his mind, this is what he wants to sell to.